Laptop computer spins onto the screen, opens, and displays ATP Education Program Webinar Series, closes, and then spins off the screen.
Documents, the basics. So when you're creating documents, it's really important that you keep accessibility in mind. When we talk about documents today, we're going to talk about creating accessible documents for word processing, for presentation, and video. And these are just the basics. There are definitely a lot more features and accessibility features that you can build into these documents. But it's a good start to start putting the basics in and start thinking about accessibility when you're creating these documents and when you're setting them up. This will make it a lot easier for the end users, for whether they have a disability. So, example, a blind person who is using a screen reader would be able to access your document, but also there are other people that will benefit. So not just a person with disability, but a lot of people will benefit from using an accessible document because it's created in a way that it's easier to see as well as easier to navigate through. So why would you create accessible documents? First of all, it will benefit everybody, not just a person with a disability. The ability to navigate through a document, to be able to perceive that document, to be able to look at all the information on that document and easily navigate it is really important for everybody. Accessibility is not going away. It's always going to be there, and it's really important to create accessible documents so as many people as possible have access to the document and can easily get the information that you're trying to deliver through that document. The other thing is it's much easier to create or to make a document accessible if you're doing it from the onset when you're creating the document, rather than going in later and then trying to fix the document so it is accessible. It takes a lot more time to do it retroactively rather than doing it proactively in the beginning. And also, if it's certain documents, like if it's exported out as a PDF that's accessible, it's great. But if it's not, to go in and try to remediate a PDF takes a lot of time and effort, and it's not the easiest thing to do. And really, if you're going to create documents that you want everybody to be able to have access to, you want to design it with accessibility in mind. So if you're designing it with accessibility in mind, you're always going to be cognizant of that end user. So there are some basic things that you can do to make your documents accessible. When you're working with word processing documents, the one thing that you want to do is be able to put in alt text for images, which is basically a description for an image, and you want to make sure that a person who has a screen reader, a person who's blind, can tell what that image is. So you're going to want to put a description or an alt text on that image that describes what that image is, and we'll go through that in a little bit. The next is use headings. And headings are kind of like markers on a page that will delineate different areas of a page. So if you have a very large document, the headings will allow you to be able to tell, what is a chapter and what is a subchapter, or what's a main section and what's a subsection, what's a main topic and what's a subtopic. And by putting in those headings, you will also make it easier to navigate. And we'll show you how that works in a little bit when we start looking at creating the table of contents. Because with a table of contents that is made accessible, I can easily jump to specific sections within a document without having to read through the whole entire document. And this is especially important for a person that may be using the screen reader. The next thing is you want to create lists using the list functions in Microsoft Word and within Apple Pages, rather than creating your own manual lists. And it is much easier to navigate, especially if you're working with a screen reader. The next thing that's an easy thing to do is to determine what the language is for your document. So basically you go in and you say that this document is in, let's say, in English. So the screen reader knows what language to read it in. But if you have other types of other languages that you maybe have written this document or created this document in, you want to make sure that the screen reader knows what language it's in. But you can also delineate what other languages that may be contained in the document, so the screen reader will know how to read those. A Color contrast is really extremely important for a person who have vision issues. People may be colorblind. They may have difficulty with seeing with how dark or light the document or the text is. So it's really important that you consider color contrast and color contrast within graphics, as well as some people cannot see specific colors. Everything may be looking black and white to them. So a red check may look the same thing as a green check. So you want to make sure that you have the correct color contrast also. And we'll show you some resources for that. You also want to have those links for navigation. We talked about that a little bit earlier, is to be able to have a table of content. So it's easy to be able to get around your document very quickly and easily, not only for a person who is a screen reader, but if you have a very long document, to be able to quickly and easily get to a specific section, a table of contents is really, really important. And the last thing is you want to use the Save As feature when you've created an accessible document and you want to save it into another format, for example, a PDF. It's important that you use the Save As feature rather than the Export feature. Sometimes that Export feature will strip out your word processing or your accessibility features. But doing a Save As will typically give you the option of retaining those accessibility features. Really important when you're doing PDF documents that you retain those accessibility features that you've built into that document. Because like I said a little bit earlier, it's much easier to fix a PDF if it has the basics of accessibility rather than if there's no accessibility that is built into the PDF. It takes a lot of time and effort to be able to remediate that document. So the first thing that you can do is add alt text to images. This is what you would do, and this is in your handout. This is what you would do to do it within Microsoft Word. You can do the same thing in Pages, Apple's Pages, but we're just going to stick with Microsoft Word for these examples, and I'll show you how to do that. Microsoft Word is available on Mac as well as PC. It also, you can do the same concept when you're working with Google Documents. Also, it has the option of being able to do alt text for images. So in this document, you'll notice that I have an image. So in order to find out what the alt text is in there, I'm just going to do a control click on it, and I'm going to edit the alt text. And you'll notice that there's nothing in there, so there's no description. So if I'm a blind person and I scroll over the top of this, I would have no idea what this image was, whether it's relevant to this page, whether it's relevant to where what's being talked about on that page. There's no information. All it would say is that there is a photo there or a picture there. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in here, worried student with a huge stack of books. Now when a person who is a screen reader rolls over this picture, they'll know what that picture is. Sometimes in documents, so we do put things in that are decorative, whether it's placeholders or lines across the top of the page, and they're purely in there for decorative purposes. I can also mark this as decorative. So when a person with a screen reader rolls over the top of it, it'll say that it is decorative, and they know what it is, and they can go past that. I could also write in here it's decorative if I wanted to also. So basically that's what it is. Every one of your pictures you're going to want to put in an alt tag or alt text in there. Okay, continuing on. The next thing is to use header styles and heading styles. And when we talk about heading style, it's a way for delineating in your document what the different sections are. So a heading 1 typically, if we're looking at a book, would be chapter 1, and then the next heading down would be section 1, and then below that would be those areas, it goes down from there. So if I have heading 1 would be a chapter and I have several sections, I would have 2 heading 2s in there, and heading 3 may be some subsections of that. So you want to delineate that within your document. And the way that you would do that is we go into our Word document again, and you'll notice that I actually have a couple headings in here. So I have an introduction. So if I'm on my home ribbon, you'll notice that I have the heading section over here, and I also have a styles pane. So I'm going to highlight this first one, and you'll notice that I've already designated that as a heading 1, so that's one of the main topics on this page, on this document. If I were to go and change it to a heading 2, which would be a subtopic, you'll notice that it gets a little bit smaller. It's going to look a little bit different. Now, as I'm navigating through this document, I could go through and navigate through all heading 1s, all heading 2s, but it will allow me to very easily to get within that document. The other thing is I can click over here and bring up that style panes off to the side here, and I can actually access that real quickly if I want to also. It certainly is a preference. I'm going to change that back to a heading 1. Okay, I'll close that off. So there you're going to use your headings. The next thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you have color contrast that works really well, so it's easy for somebody to see. And there's different ways that you can do that. One of them is you can actually use this feature called the automatic font color, and it will automatically make that high contrast for you based on your background. There's also a color analyzer I have in here that you can go ahead and download depending on what platform you're on, that will allow you to work with colors if you want to have font colors. But I'm going to go real quickly here to the next topic, and then we'll cover 2 of them at the same time. So lists, again, you want to use the list feature in there when you're creating lists rather than creating lists manually. So you want to use Word's built-in tools for creating ordered or numbered or unordered or bulleted lists. Document language just tells you where you can go in and do the document language. We won't show you that at this point. It's very easy to find, but there you're going to designate the language that you're working with. The last thing is table of contents. You want to create a table of contents so it's easier to move around that document. So the color, first thing you want to do is you want to take a look at this color of the document, and you're going to take a look and you're going to see that it's in yellow. So very, very hard to see. So when I go up into the color of my fonts, if I go into here and I click on automatic, it's automatically going to give me a font color that has high contrast. And you'll see that it's made it dark black at that point. Now what we want to do is we want to create a table of contents. And if we've created our headers appropriately, that table of content gets to be really easy. So if I go down into, let's go index and tables, and I go back to my table of contents, I can choose from the different styles, but I'm going to click on OK. And now you're going to see it creates a table of content for me that I can easily maneuver around and get around in that document. So now it takes me to that specific place in the document by just clicking on that. Okay, so next we're going to go back again and we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do when you export it. Again, you don't use the print to PDF, you use the save as, and then you want to make sure you're selecting that the document structure tags for accessibility is checked. Presentations, so if you're working with PowerPoint or Keynote presentations, the first thing you want to do is to choose the simple and clean designs or templates that they have. So you want to use those built-in layouts. Those typically have that high contrast in mind, so you want to use those. Look for those high contrast ones like this presentation. You want to avoid transitions. They're distracting and sometimes they can be very hard for a person who has vision issues. You want to do the good contrast color as we talked about in a Word document. You want to avoid all those really decorative fonts, you know, like the Zap Dingbats and all those types of things. They may look good, or some of the script ones, but they may be hard to read for some users. Again, you want to put alt text on images. And the last thing you want to do is you want to make sure that all your videos are captioned. The last thing you can do is Microsoft Word has an accessibility checker for all of their Microsoft Office suites. And that will allow you to be able to quickly go in and check the accessibility of your document. So when we go into Microsoft Word, if I go into accessibility, you're going to see that I have a check accessibility, and that check accessibility is going to go in and look at my document and tell me what errors I have, and it will also down here tell me how I can fix that. So again, run all of your documents through that document or that accessibility checker, and it will check and let you know what accessibility issues you may have. The last thing is captioning. So when you're working with captioning, you want to make sure that your captioning is readable. It doesn't obstruct the important content in the video. It includes the label of the speakers. It should be 99% accurate, and there are some rules and standards that you can follow when you're creating captions. Again, 99% accuracy is the industry standard. So basically that's one error every 2.5 seconds, or sentences, I'm sorry. Here's a list of captioning programs that are out there, from really expensive ones to there's some free solutions. There's also ASR Captions, which is these are automatic screen or speech recognition. They're AI, so they're artificial intelligence that will go out there and recognize your words and do captioning. YouTube Captioning, Otter AI, iMovie, and Clips all have captioning features in them. And here are some more resources for making your Office documents accessible, as well as making your accessible documents in Apple. These are all in your handout.
Thank you for watching. For more information on the ATP Education Program, please visit our website at atp.nebraska.gov/education or email us at atp.education@nebraska.gov.